Gaelic Games Fan TV, the 2025 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Group Stage draw has happened, and the Tailteann Cup draw has happened as well. So some very interesting draws that have taken place today in HQ. The draws were made for the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Group Stages. We're going to be reacting to that draw, which teams are playing each other, running through some of the potential matchups, the fixtures as well. Is going to be very, very interesting indeed. And yeah, look, obviously as a Dublin fan, it's been a mad couple of days. Seeing Dublin obviously going in as seed 3 in the group as well. So a little bit unusual and a little bit mad there. But look, we're going to be reacting to the groups, discussing them in more detail, breaking them down. And we will be looking at the Tailteann Cup draw as well, which, yeah, has definitely delved up some interesting games. So let's start off with, well, that was the wrong image. There we go. That's the Tailteann Cup. That's also the wrong image. Jesus, we're having a great start here. And this is the All-Ireland 2025 Senior Group Championship draw. So as you'll see there, Group 1, we've got the Ulster winners, the Connacht runners-up, Tyrone and Cavan. And then in Group 2, you've got the Munster winners, the Leinster runners-up, Roscommon and Cork. And then in Group 3, you have the Leinster winners, the Munster runners-up, Monaghan and Down. And then in Group 4, you have the Connacht winners, the Ulster runners-up, and then Dublin and Derry. The first kind of reaction there as a Dublin fan is Group 4. Like, wow, what a draw you could end up with. I mean, it's not an easy draw. It's probably the toughest draw you could have actually been given, in my opinion. Although I do actually think Cork might have been a tougher draw than Derry, to be honest with you. Just because Cork will believe they can beat us, and Cork actually have a bit of having, pushed Kerry the way they did. I don't think they'd fear Dublin at all. Derry look a little bit broken to me at the moment, so I wouldn't be entirely, I actually think Derry, we can turn them over, especially if they're coming into that game on the back of 2 defeats. But look, being with the Ulster runners-up, there's no easy game there. The Connacht winners, look, I would expect that to be Galway, in my opinion. And we will be dropping a preview on those games tomorrow. But, yeah, like, if it is Mayo, look, fair enough. And you would say that if it is Mayo, they've beaten Galway. So, look, you'd have to say that they're, they'll be in a better position than Dublin if they do go and actually beat Galway. But, wow, like, what a draw that is. Very, very tough draw from a Dublin perspective. And, I think finishing in the top 2, look, finishing in the top 3 in the group is definitely achievable. But getting out of the group looks very, very, but not finishing in the top 2 looks, like you would have to say, like, the Armagh Donegal, regardless of who loses that game, I think they're both ahead of Dublin, in my opinion. And, if it is Galway who win Connacht, and even if it is Mayo, if Mayo go and beat Galway, they've beaten a top team there. So you'd have to say that they'll be coming in a great position. So it's going to be tough. And look, we'll run through fixtures as well and everything else. Just throwing the draw back up on the screen. Group 1, like, looking at that, I mean, the Ulster winners, again, you'll have one of Armagh Donegal in there. Connacht runners-up, Tyrone and Cavan as well. It is, it feels more like a traditional kind of group stage draw with the ones we've seen. And you're looking at it there, like, I think Tyrone would fancy their chances. Could be Tyrone Armagh again, which after the game we saw will be absolutely brilliant. And Group 2 is interesting. The Munster winners, which, look, you'd imagine will be Kerry. The Leinster runners-up, either Louth or Meath there. Roscommon and Cork as well. So it's hard to kind of know. I think with Dublin losing in Munster, it's just kind of, like, even looking at Group 3 as well, which we'll get onto. But, you have Kerry and Cork potentially playing each other again, which I don't think people will be against after what a cracking game it was. The Rossies as well. I mean, it'd be interesting to see who the Leinster runner-up is as well, but I think the Rossies will fancy their chances at maybe squeaking into the top 2 there. And I think, look, Cork will fancy their chances as well. I mean, if I have to call it now, I mean, I think Cork could definitely finish in the top 2 there. Group 3 is mad, isn't it? Because it's like you're going to have, most likely anyway, 2 Division 3 teams in there, and both Down and Clare. Obviously, Down were relegated from Division 2, but they will be a Division 3 team next season. Clare got in here by the way that the Munster Championship works, but, they were actually 3rd in Division 3. So 2 Division 3 teams. The Leinster winners will be a Division 2 team. We know that for certain. So you're going to have Monaghan in there paired up with 2 Division 3 teams and 1 Division 2 side, which is a little bit crazy and a little bit mad, but that's just kind of how the draw has opened it up. But look, I think all of those 4 counties will be fancying their chances. And I think if you're a Monaghan fan, you will be absolutely licking your lips at that, in my opinion, because Monaghan have played a lot of teams around that level already this year, and they've wiped the floor with the majority of them. Yes, they lost it down in the last game in the league, but that was an irrelevant game. They rested players. I don't think you can read too much into that. Down had to win that game as well. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Monaghan didn't. They were already promoted. So, and then you're looking at it as well in terms of the, Clare going in, the Leinster winners, look, will be carrying a huge amount of momentum, having obviously gone and broken the duck. And whether it is Meath or a Louth, they'll be carrying a lot of confidence and momentum going into it. But it's wide open. And look, you're going to have, some teams get to the preliminary rounds that we wouldn't have expected originally. Even down, I think, to a certain extent, like who were impressive enough versus Donegal. And although they got relegated, showed some good signs in there, and that they'd fancy their chances against Clare. They'd fancy their chances even against the Leinster winners as well. And maybe they could give Monaghan a go as well. So it's very, very interesting indeed. Some comments here. Peter says, please tell me why they can't wait for the provincials to be over. I've no idea, to be honest with you. Like, people were saying that kind of in the build up to this. I don't know why they do. There must be, it's never really been explained, to be honest with you. I have seen a few people say, like, why would a team want to win Connacht? Because of the fact that they'll end up with a group with Dublin, Derry, and the Ulster runners up. But, if you lose Connacht, I actually think the group is tougher, because you'll end up with the Ulster winners, and you'd probably rather play the runners up than the winners, in my opinion, because the winners will be coming in with huge momentum and confidence, whereas the runners up could be a bit damaged. Like, you just don't know after such a big kind of loss and everything else. I think Tyrone are a better team than Dublin, so you'd probably rather be in there with Dublin than Tyrone, and there's an argument that Cavan are probably in a bit of a better place than Derry right now. So there we go. But Sean says they shouldn't do the draw before the provincials. Kerry get a nice draw again. They do always seem to kind of get a handy draw. Like, throwing it back up on the screen again. Like, I mean, yeah, like with the Leinster runners up, it's it's probably just the way it has probably worked out. But look, it would be kind of mad, because if Kerry actually lost in the Munster final, they'd probably end up with an even easier draw, which would be mad. But there we are. Like, that's just kind of how it's gone. But yeah, like, you would expect Kerry to get the better of the Leinster runners up. I mean, Cork gave them a good go. Maybe the Rossies can do something there as well. Who knows? But it is interesting there. Farney Fan TV says, no, Monaghan will try our best to fuck this up. Sean says it's between Dublin and Derry to see who gets grouped. It's logistics. It's a lot harder to book buses for teams and hotels 6 days before the match. So doing it 3 weeks before gives time to sort all that stuff out. Yeah, maybe that's a fair point. Sean says that caught Kerry out last year because they weren't tested. I think I can't really remember the draw from last year, to be honest, that Kerry were in, and that probably shows you how one-sided it was. But yeah, looking at it there, like it, and in terms of fixtures as well. So as far as I know, it will be so in the opening game, it will be the seed 1 teams versus seed 3. So it'll basically be the Ulster winners playing Tyrone, and the seed 1 teams will be at home. So for example, you could have Armagh versus Tyrone or Donegal versus Tyrone. You'll probably have Kerry versus Roscommon. You'll most likely have Louth versus No, I'm only joking. Louth or Meath. Throwing a bit of shade there. Louth or Meath. I still haven't decided who I think is going to win that, but one of them will be playing at home to Monaghan, and then the Connacht winners will be playing Dublin. So it could be an L trip to Galway for Dublin there. And then I think game 2 will be seed 4 versus seed 1, and seed 3 versus seed 2, where the seed 3 teams. No, I didn't explain that right. Round 2. Yeah, no, I did explain it right. So seed 4 will have the home games, and seed 3 will have the home games in match day 2. So you could have Dublin versus the Ulster runners up in Croke Park, which would be a very interesting game. But you could also have Derry versus Galway in Derry. So there's some interesting kind of fixtures there. I think the neutral ground games will be 1 versus 2 and 3 versus 4 in terms of the pots. So that would be Dublin versus Derry in a neutral venue, or Roscommon versus Cork in a neutral venue. The Ulster winners versus the Connacht runners-up in a neutral venue. There's obviously still a lot to be figured out with fixtures and everything else, so we'll obviously have to wait and see. Emmett says here, as a Meath man, if we win Leinster, I think we should withdraw from the championship unbeaten. I mean, you'd understand it, to be fair, like if the players and everyone just wanted to go on the absolute piss because of what you achieved. But I think as well, though, like I would be curious to see how far Meath can actually go in this All-Ireland series. And even with that group as well, like it's not impossible that you win that group or even come second. Like Monaghan obviously gave you a fair cut in the league, to be fair. So maybe that might have something to do with it. But I definitely think you can get past Down. I definitely think you can get past Clare. You'll be a second place team. I mean, who knows? We could have a world where Meath finished second in their group, Dublin finished third, and it happens again, but it happens in Navan. What a game that would be. That would be absolutely crazy, wouldn't it, in a preliminary round match? But yeah, it is an exciting draw. I think it's a much better draw than the last couple of years. The last couple of years, we've had a lot of the same games, like Dublin, Roscommon, and I feel like Mayo, Cork have drawn each other a couple of times. Kerry always seem to, kind of get loud. That always used to be a thing. Whereas now it seems to be the groups look a bit more better, and maybe with Dublin losing, it's kind of unbalanced things a little bit. What's actually bizarre as well is that, like, Dublin not have lost against Meath, Derry wouldn't have been a pot 4 team, but because Dublin lost, it essentially knocked Derry down to be a pot 4 side. And yeah, like absolutely, like kind of crazy and bizarre there, because as a result of Dublin losing, we've not only knocked ourselves down to be a pot 3 side, but we've inadvertently knocked Derry down and then made ourselves an even more difficult draw. So yeah, a little bit mad there. Gavin says Roscommon 3-4, Mayo 2-9. Great under 20 final in Tuam here. Yeah, absolutely. Cheers for the update, Gavin, and I'll be cheering for Rossies there as a neutral, but as an El bitter Dublin fan. Dubs fan says we are screwed, in my opinion. It's hard to know, isn't it? It's, a part of me feels like it might be good for Dublin to get tough games, because look, ultimately, if we can't get out of that group, then we're not good enough. Do you know what I mean? And that's just it. And that's just the plain sailing of it. I'd rather go out early and be terrible than, get to a semi-final and final and have hope and then lose. At the same time, you could be proud of the lads then for turning it around. But look, we'll see what Dublin's made of now. Like, what a tough game it's going to be going up against the Connacht winners. And look, if it is Galway, in my opinion, it's the best team in the country. You're going up against the best team in the country. Away from home, you then straight away have to play at home to another top team in terms of the Ulster runners up. And then you're going into the Derry game where, potentially both teams could be on 0 points. So, it's going to be interesting. But look, we'll see what Dublin's made of. Maybe they can step it up. Maybe they can deliver a big performance and a big win. They're going to have to now. And I think there can be no more waiting around to click into gear. Like, it kind of has to be now, really, doesn't it? So, there we go. Sean says, where will the Derry Dublin game be? That will be the decider. Yeah, it's going to be in a neutral venue. It's hard to kind of know where. Like, if I had to take a guess, in terms of a neutral venue, hard to know. Like, could it be Portlaoise again? Bizarrely, maybe that's too far to travel for Derry. It's kind of hard to know, like, in terms of a venue that might be in the middle. Maybe it could be like maybe in Westmeath or something like that. Maybe it could be a Portlaoise. Maybe it could be Loud. It could, I don't really know. It's a hard one to actually know. Like, even just throwing the group back up as well and looking at it as well. Like, Monaghan down. Hard to know kind of where that game would be played. Could be played in Navan or something like that, to be fair. Roscommon Cork would be an interesting one there in terms of a neutral venue, maybe like Tullamore and Tyrone Cavan. Could happen in maybe the Letics ground or something like that. Kind of hard to know, isn't it? something kind of that nature. Maybe played in Armagh, maybe played in Ballybuffet. And then you're looking at some of the other ones as well, like the Connacht winners and the Ulster runners up. Like if it was Galway Armagh or Galway Donegal, maybe Breffni or something. It's interesting. We'll see kind of what happens there. But yeah. Gavin says thoughts on the whole group of that thing with Connacht final. I don't know. Cavan were a score away from promotion, and Derry haven't won a game in a year. I think it's tough either way. Yeah, like I was kind of alluding to that a little bit earlier, and I think Colin Parkinson was mentioning that. I think it probably has been scenarios where maybe people have said, "Oh, would it be better for a team to lose?" I just don't see that being the case. So I actually think Group 1 is tougher, in my opinion. Like if you're gonna lose Connacht, I think it's actually a tougher group. So, you'll be with the Ulster winners rather than the Ulster runners up. So, I'm not too sure, but and I think as well, like to be fair, like if it's if you win Connacht, like say if Mayo go and beat Galway, like the amount of confidence, momentum, Mayo fans will be buzzing winning their first Connacht title. They'll be playing Dublin at home in McHale Park after Dublin just got beaten by Meath. Like Mayo would absolutely fancy their chances in that game, especially after just beating Galway as well. So, I don't think Galway or Mayo should fear Dublin or Derry. I think they should be confident enough to get past both of them. And you'll be going in with the Ulster runners up rather than the Ulster winners, and you'd probably nearly rather be in there with the Ulster runners up rather than the winners. Because like imagine a scenario where it's Armagh as the Ulster runners up. And they're coming in low on confidence, having lost another Ulster final. I think you'd rather play that than an Armagh that would be absolutely buzzing, or a Donegal that would be absolutely buzzing. So, there we go. Mikey says, yeah, we probably answered that to be fair. But Farney Fan TV says here, I think anybody would have thought after Derry beat using the league final last year that the legs would come out from the underneath them. It's been an astronomical drop off. But maybe bizarrely, it's been a drop off from both counties. A little bit, when you think about it. Like Dublin were a little bit underwhelming in Leinster last year. And then in the group stages we were okay, but we drew with Mayo on the final day. We did enough to kind of win that group in the end, but then lost to Galway. And look, Derry, yeah, it's been incredible with Derry in fairness, but there we are. Just looking at the Tailteann Cup then as well, because that draw did take place as well. So Group 1, you've got Kildare, Sligo, Leitrim and Tipperary. Group 2, Offaly, Laois, Wicklow and Waterford. Group 3 is Westmeath, Limerick, Antrim and London. And Group 4 is Fermanagh, Wexford, Carlow and Longford. New York do come into the preliminary round as well, so they'll play one of the best placed third place teams, if that makes sense. So that's how that will work. But in terms of the group, like I think Group 1 is probably the most interesting, I think, in terms of Kildare, Sligo. Like for me, you have two of the front runners there in Group 1. You've Leitrim coming in with a bit of momentum after a very good performance against Mayo. And I think Tipperary as well will, they do have good players there, Tipperary. They're probably the strongest of the Pot 4 sides. So I think it's an interesting draw. Look, I would expect Kildare and Sligo to get out of there in the top 2, but I think and we will drop a predictions, kind of in-depth predictions video on this further down the line. But Group 2, Offaly, Laois, two big rivals there. Wicklow, Waterford seem to know each other quite well as well. So that'll be interesting to see. Group 3, Westmeath, Limerick, Antrim and London. I feel like there is a potential there maybe for like a London to go on a bit of a shock. Potentially, like Antrim had a disappointing kind of season, although they do have a great record in this competition. And Group 4 is interesting as well, with Fermanagh, Wexford, Carlow and Longford there. And Carlow going in as the seed 3 team as well, so maybe they might be able to get themselves out of the group. But it will be interesting. And for those who don't know, it will be the first place teams go straight through to the quarterfinals, and then the second place teams will play the third place teams, but there will be one third place team who will miss out, and that will be kind of the team with the lowest points, and sometimes it can go down to score difference and different things like that. And in this All-Ireland group stage, the first place teams go straight through to the quarterfinals, and the second place teams play the third place team. So there we are. Porrick says Monaghan should top their group. I think they should. And look, for Monaghan to get through to an All-Ireland quarterfinal would be, a brilliant achievement. They'll be seeded in that quarterfinal draw as well. So they're probably going to avoid the other group winners. And, I think a semi-final isn't out of the realms of possibility, I think, for Monaghan. Mikey asks here, will you be doing a Tailteann Cup prediction? Absolutely, yeah, we'll drop that. We'll drop that soon. And Gavin says Group 4 is kind of weak in the Tailteann. Yeah, it does feel kind of wide open. Farney Fan TV says they replaced the worst third place team. You'd be gutted after clinching third on the final day for you, New York, to just snatch your place off you. Yeah, like I wish they could just kind of find a way to get New York in the group. If you had a group of 5, and then maybe you could do it a little bit differently. But then it is just the logistics of New York playing so many games. They, the GA just don't want to fork out the money, unfortunately. But there we are. Mikey says there's so much riding on the Leinster final. If the history between Meath Louth wasn't enough, the winner gets the easiest group there is with a serious shot at going straight to the quarterfinals. Absolutely, yeah. I think I think the momentum, the buzz that will be there. You wonder as well, could there be a hangover? Maybe like with winning a Leinster championship and having so much buzz and excitement, it's kind of hard to know, to be honest with you. And maybe that might open it up for a Down or a Clare. But yeah, no, it'd be absolutely huge for a Meath or for a Louth to win that group. Look, Monaghan would be tough, and I would still fancy Monaghan either way, regardless of who it is right now. But even second place, you go into second place, you probably fancy them to win then against one of the third place teams at home as well. And then you're into a quarter final. And what an achievement it would be for either Meath or Louth to get to an All-Ireland quarter final. I know Louth were there last year, but for Louth to get back there, or for Meath to get there, I think it would be an incredible achievement. In fairness, John says here, great draw for Monaghan. There will be some cracking games. Can't wait. I'm sure every team in the group will think that they can win it. And Porrick says Dublin could end up finishing 4th in their group. Yeah, it could happen. Farney Fan TV says here, Joe Sheridan wants to call up. He's been practicing his volleyball lately as well. Yeah, like Joe Sheridan's going to be, he's going to be somewhere. He's going to be in the media somewhere surely for that game. It'd be madness not to have him involved with this somehow. He's going to be in Croke Park or something. He has to be there. But there we are. I don't think Martin Sutton will be there. To be fair, I don't think he'll be there. But yeah, I wonder what he'll think about all this as well. Maybe to be fair, it'd be a great interview to kind of get him in the build up to the game, wouldn't it? But there we are. But yeah, we'll run through the groups again in case anyone missed this. So Tailteann Cup are on the screen there, so you can pause it if you haven't seen it already. And then the All-Ireland group stages are there as well. So you've got some big potential games in there as well. Like, as a Dublin fan, I'm looking forward to maybe an L trip to Galway, a neutral venue against Derry as well. And then mad to think, like, Dublin, there is a world where Dublin could only play one game in Croke Park in the championship this year, which is absolutely mad, isn't it? And they mightn't even win it as well. They might even lose it. So imagine that, like Dublin not winning a championship game in a year in Croke Park. It'd just be, it's crazy how that's like shifted so quickly. It feels only yesterday we were speaking about splitting Dublin in two and everything else. But anyway, look, we'll wrap this up here. Cheers anyone who tuned in. Let us know your thoughts on the group stages. And we'll be back tomorrow to preview the provincial finals, Galway versus Roscommon. And we have a big game as well with Kerry versus Clare. So, cheers anyone who tuned in. And until the next one, we'll speak to you all soon.